Hey, what's up YouTube? In today's video, we're going to be going over games and analyzing matchups that got me to 2500 medals in Clash Royale. The matchups that I'm going to be covering are as follows. First, I'm going to be covering a Mega Knight control deck, then Pig ZQ, Goblin Giant Sparky, Goblin Drill Poison, Pekka Control, Lava Loon, Mortar Bait, and finally, Splashyard. I hope that by the end of the video, you will be a better HogEQ player and have learned a thing or two. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So in this first matchup against Mega Knight, I popped my Mighty Miner ability on the Prince, because if I didn't, the Prince would have killed my Mighty Miner anyway, and at least this way, I forced out the Ice Wizard in the other lane. So it's 1 elixir to use the ability, but I forced out a 3 elixir card. So the way I would have defended the Prince, I would have still had to have gone Cannon plus Skeletons anyway, so overall it was a good play. Ice Spirit just to fully counter this Ice Wizard, then I go for a Hog. In single elixir, and even in double, he spent 7 elixir on a Mega Knight, so I'm going to pressure opposite lane so he can't build up a massive push. Here I have Log and I also have Firecracker. I don't Log because then I have nothing else. At least the Firecracker this way will help out on defending against the Mega Knight. And this would have been easier defense, but he uses Lightning, so then I have to go for Skeletons as well. Completely fine. Completely safe, we've completely defended, and now I've just got to think about how am I going to win this game. So I know that he's got some Mega Knight Lightning deck with Prince, so really what this comes down to is making sure that I don't get any bad Hogs in this game. If I play a Hog into a charging Prince and any Mega Knights at the same time and then he gets a counter push, that is how you lose this game. I'm sure if you guys play HogEQ you will have experienced it. There I go for a Hog plus Ice Spirit because I knew he had to go either Prince or Lumberjack. He went for both. I go for Skeletons at the bridge, just all the way up high so that if he went for arrows onto my cannon, it wouldn't have hit the Skeletons. And at the same time, I'm just delaying, letting my cannon just sit on the field. It's not taking any damage. It's doing a great job just cleaning up all of these troops. Your MVP in this matchup, what people don't realize, is actually your cannon. Because they have arrows and Firecracker doesn't do that much against Mega Knights and Princes. I'm sure you guys know that. But your cannon is the MVP. If you learn to defend your cannons and stack cannons, that will win it. So here my Firecracker just gets arrowed. So I cycle back to my Mighty Miner cleans everything up, and I'm kind of just thinking, okay, now I have to defend. So unfortunately my Mighty Miner changes lane, so I have to pop the ability so that it goes back in the right lane. I notice this, I went for my Firecracker first. Firecracker before my cycle cards, he then goes for his Lightning. I Hog because I know he doesn't have Elixir for very much at all, and he doesn't have his Mega Knight in cycle. Both of those things. I get 2 beautiful Hog hits, and now I have to defend. See, I don't overcommit. I'm not going Earthquake or anything crazy on defense. You just get your Hog damage. You get 1 Hog hit at a time. In this case, I got 2 because he overcommitted quite a lot. But usually you get 1 Hog hit at a time, and then chill. Don't be going for Firecrackers at the bridge. Don't be going for cycling Earthquakes, trying to slow it down, doing all this funky nonsense. It doesn't work. So here, look, I cycled a cannon first, right? Then I logged, slow everything down, Firecracker first, then I use my cycle card. So first I cycle these, because now I can get back. Look at this, beautiful Mighty Miner plus Ice Spirit slows everything down. Firecracker off to the side, I'm spacing out everything. That Hog pulls back the Prince, and then because it's 1 HP, I also Earthquake it. The Earthquake by chance also happens to keep the Lumberjack in place so that my Firecracker gets some chip, and at this point, the game really should be done. If I was really disciplined, I would just spell cycle, but he goes for Prince in the back, so I know that, look, I have to go for Cannon first. Cannon first, then I get my Evo Cracker. I know he's going to arrow it, so at least I want to get that 1 shot. I actually go for a Hog here. And to be honest, the only reason I did this is because I thought I would just win the game here, because he spent so much Elixir, but Ice Wizard plus Skeletons plus Guards is kind of broken, so anyway, I do have to defend. Thankfully, I don't lose my towers. Everything is fine. We do take some damage, but now I realize, okay, no more Hogs. That's how you lose the matchup. This is actually good that you can see that in this game. That is how you lose this matchup, is that you just go for stupid Hogs. I should have just spell cycled. Nothing would have happened. I would have basically taken 0 damage the whole game. Just spell cycle. GG's, very well controlled. And big tip, first cycle your cannon and your Firecracker, and then cycle your cheap cards. The next matchup that I'm going to be covering is Pig ZQ, and this is a notoriously difficult matchup for HogEQ players, so don't worry if you lose it, but in this game I'm going to show you how you beat it. He plays his Ice Spirit, then he goes for his Skeletons, and so I kind of already think that he's got either HogEQ or Pig ZQ, and then he goes Pigs at the bridge, so I'm already ready to do the cannon trick. Now, for those of you who don't know, the cannon trick is a technique that you can do that sort of pushes the pigs into a range where they can't Earthquake your cannon and your tower at the same time. So usually they'll just miss your cannon. I use my Mighty Miner ability here because I knew he was going to go Delivery. I already know his deck. And then I go for this Log, kind of thinking he was going to go for his Ice Spirit. even if he used his Ice Spirit, and realistically it wasn't a good play, probably shouldn't have done it, but now I've got to defend his queen. This is something I want you to notice. I use my skeletons onto his queen early. Why? So that he's forced to use his ability early, and then I can Earthquake. Now I delayed my Earthquake, I was a little bit slow, and so I took one queen hit, but if I had done it immediately, then I would have fully countered the queen. So that's one thing, is play your cycle cards against the queen up high so that it pops its ability and then has to walk with its ability before it gets to your tower. Now I knew he was going to go for pigs here, so I went for a hog immediately, and you'll notice that pigs plus EQ is 8 elixir. So then I went for a hog, knowing if you have 8 elixir, you might only get 1 elixir back, so we had enough just for a cannon. And so if I went for a log, I was either going to hit his skeletons or I was going to hit his cannon, and either way get hog damage. He used his cannon already, so I know his cannon's out of cycle, and I've got to be aggressive and punish his cycle. So I go hog at 0. My hog gets to the tower. He does have his Evo Ice Spirit, but we do still get 2 hog hits, and honestly, a flawless start to the game. That was just perfect micro interactions, perfect macro understanding of understanding his cycle and punishing it perfectly. So again, I'm ready, and now you might think, okay, if he goes pigs at the bridge, how do you defend? Well, this is a little technique you guys can do. I even go for my Mighty Miner. First, I go for this, and then I go for this beautiful Evo Cannon. You see how all of the pigs got hit by the Evo Cannon barrage? That's a nice little trick that you guys can learn. So here I go for my Mighty Miner. Now I could have used the Mighty Miner ability to keep its HP, but actually what I wanted was this sort of split lane pressure where I can Earthquake. He goes for a really nice cannon outside of Earthquake range. I log, just hoping to get maybe some damage, but he logs in return. Notice how the whole time I did that, I had 3 card cycles. Now I'm back to a hog before he can even punish me. Right, I'm back to another hog. I get another hog to the tower. I outcycled him because I had my Mighty Miner on the field the whole time. And now I just have to focus on defending. So again, look, I go for my cannon trick. Firecracker in this placement, you can memorize that. Just kind of in the middle, nothing special, but Firecracker will hit most of the pigs with that placement. And then he goes for his queen. Queen gets melted and I take no damage. And now it's just a cleanup job, right? So you'll notice how here I didn't go for an Earthquake. Right? I could have gone hog Earthquake, but I knew that if I went for Earthquake, I wouldn't have enough for cannon if he went pigs. And he went pigs, right? These are good players. He knows how to try and punish me. I went for my cannon because I had the elixir, I was smart, and he just gives up. This was probably one of my best games against Pigs EQ, and so I'm happy you guys could have learned something from it. So the next matchup that we're going to be covering is Goblin Giant Sparky, and I just know that you guys are begging me to cover this matchup because I think 80 to 90% of Hog EQ players lose this. Even though, technically, they shouldn't. It is a very hard matchup to play, and I myself struggled on it for the longest time before I kind of figured it out. But once you learn it, believe me, it's not a bad matchup. So the first thing is I go Mighty Miner onto Goblin Giant. And I mentioned this in previous videos, but against any kind of giant card, whether it's Goblin Giant, Royal Giant, maybe not E-Giant, but any kind of other giant cards, you usually just use your Mighty Miner to DPS it down, and then you can kind of play around with your cannon. He did get a very nice zap off, so he managed to get some damage. The next thing that I really want to talk about is how I want to be going opposite lane the entire matchup. If I go same lane, he's just going to stack troops in the same lane. He'll go Dark Prince in the back, Sparky in the back, Mega Minion in the back, and I won't be able to push into it. And if I do, I'm going to get no damage because he has the Dagger Duchess as well. And even if I do get damage, I will not be able to defend that counter push. So you want to be going opposite lane for the rest of the matchup. I actually noticed in this matchup he didn't have arrows, which kind of makes this a bit easier. So I do protect my Firecracker here, and it actually results in me end up getting 1 Firecracker shot. So that's one thing, is again, protect your Firecrackers, and that's kind of a tip in every matchup, is just protect your Firecrackers. But okay, the next thing I want to talk about is what do you do when they Sparky in the back? So I go for my Mighty Miner in the back opposite lane, not same lane, because if I go for it same lane, either the Sparky will kill it, or when it gets nearby, I have to pop the ability, waste 1 elixir, and get it in the left lane anyway. So I put it in the left lane. I then go for my cannon. I then go for a Firecracker. I go for this cannon placement just so that it can't get pushed. Probably should have just played it in the default position, but it doesn't really matter. My Ice Spirit does get hit by its E-Wiz, so it does die. And then I have to basically, because my Ice Spirit didn't tank the first Sparky shot, I have to then sacrifice another Firecracker. But my main tip for you guys, whilst you're in single elixir, is just survive. You'll be fine, get a little bit of damage here and there. You're probably going to be about even, maybe be a little bit up, but don't worry too much about getting tons of damage in single, because you can actually get punished pretty badly for it. Now this is something I want to talk about. I just used an Earthquake on his tower, and in very similar fashion to an Evo Mega Knight matchup, if I went for a Hog Rider into an Evo Mega Knight, it's going to get 0 damage. And if I go Hog Rider into a Sparky, it's going to get 0 damage, right? It's just going to get obliterated. So there's no point in me cycling a Hog Rider. This is one of those matchups where there's just no point going for that. So what you want to do is EQ cycle. Look at this Evo cannon placement. It hits everything that crossed the bridge, including the Sparky. And then my firecracker that was on the left lane is actually helping out on the right lane. You can see how everything's spaced out. I'm kind of just playing stuff far away from each other. Really nice micro defense. This was a bad hog. This was not a good hog. This was a bit panicky. No need to go for that hog. I should have just followed my own advice and just EQ cycled. But anyway, I go for this cannon. We defend. Life is fine. He goes for a Sparky in the back. So you notice that I want to be going opposite lane and he wants to be going same lane. So the reason he's going Sparky in the back same lane is basically so that I cannot go for a hog opposite into that lane. Right now it's impossible for me to push. He's forcing me to defend. And if I spend elixir on the right side trying to attack and change lanes, he's just going to ignore it and build the world's biggest push and I'm going to get screwed. Look at this. I go Earthquake on defense. Why is that important? He's got Rage to speed things up. I've got Earthquake to slow things down. Then I use my Firecracker. You'll notice how I cycle my Firecracker at the start of the defense and now I'm back to another one. And also you'll see how I use that Evo cannon there at the end, just kind of nuke the whole field. That was the only way I was able to survive that massive push. And here I'm just like, okay, I know I can't get hog damage. He's gonna keep going Sparky and troops in the back same lane. I gotta take my value and I'm just gonna spell cycle. Again, Firecracker gets that shot, beautiful. Firecracker gets the second shot, beautiful. I'm just going for, you see how I'm playing my cycle troops as well at the bridge, my skeletons and stuff. Very far away, everything's spaced out. Another Firecracker, everything's dead. And here I go for a hog. Because he played Sparky in the back, I thought I could EQ it and sort of just keep it far behind and maybe get a hog hit. Hog doesn't get a hit, but he was distracted so that my Firecracker gets 2 hits. So I have the lead now, and now I just have to defend. So because his Sparky is pretty far away from the Goblin Giant, I thought I can just get a nice Mighty Miner onto it. I'm just tanking this Sparky shot with skeletons. I got log, I've just got, see I stacked 2 cannons, and then the Evo cannon, so beautiful. Look at the Firecracker placement. I've been doing it all game, all the way on the outside, so that when I blow cannons, he can't get loads of value with arrows or zap or anything. And again, I'm just, he either has to defend my cannons and like try and kill my cannons or my Firecrackers, but he can't really do both. So again, I'm just spell cycling. I'm not going for hogs. If I go for a hog, I will lose this game 100%. That's the biggest thing that people don't realize is you just can't keep chucking hogs in this matchup. You will just straight up lose. And now there's just no time for him to win. You know, I'm playing cycle cards at the bridge. I've got 2 cannons now, right? I've either got 2 Firecrackers or 2 cannons basically the entire game. So I hope that kind of was a good explanation for you guys as to how to beat Goblin Giant Sparky, and maybe you learned something from it. Up next, we've got Goblin Drill Poison, which is a pretty tough matchup. Even if you know what you're doing, it is just generally a tough matchup, but you can definitely win it. So here I go for a hog. See, I don't Earthquake, and I think that's one thing I should mention, is that generally in single elixir, you just want to chill, right? The main thing you're trying to do in single elixir is just figure out what 8 cards your opponent has. If I go for an Earthquake, you never know what he could have, you know? He could have some Mega Knight or something, and now I have to defend, and, you know, there's just no need for it. So I cycled some cards, and this was just very unfortunate. I don't know how the Firecracker didn't target those goblins, but anyway. One thing that I want to mention, and I think this is probably the biggest tip I'm going to give you in this matchup, is that kind of like against Expo, the way you win this is by being unpredictable. You need to be able to change up how you're defending Goblin Drills, because you have so many ways of defending Goblin Drills. Let me just go through a few. If you place a cannon at the front of your tower and they go for Goblin Drill at the front, that will fully defend it. If you go for a troop, like an Ice Spirit or Skeletons, tank for the first Goblin and then log when the Goblin Drill is at like 2/3 HP, you will fully counter it. If you go for a log first and then you go for cycle card, that will fully counter it. If you go for a Firecracker and plus log, that will fully counter it. If you go for log plus fire, like you know, the list goes on. There are so many different ways of countering a Goblin Drill. Maybe I should even make a video just on that. And by mixing it up, you can kind of be unpredictable, so your opponent can't just keep snowballing or going for poison on troops, because they have no idea how you're going to defend it, right? And by doing that, you kind of break their cycle. Now, as opposed to which lane I should be attacking, you can see that I'm going opposite lane. And in general, I want to be going opposite lane, and he wants to be going same lane. So see, look here, I went for my log first, and then I went for my Ice Spirit. So he was thinking if I went Ice Spirit first, I wouldn't have been able to defend that, right? He would have gotten tons of damage. But in terms of lanes, I'm going in the opposite lane to him, but he wants to go into the same lane. So here he just decides, okay, he needs to swap. He needs to go same lane as me. I go Mighty Miner in the left just for, it's the lane that he's going in, and then it also is just, you know, good for 3-card cycle, right? I punish immediately, go for a hog. He gets a really nice prediction Ice Spirit, but the thing, he doesn't have logs, so he still can't kill my Firecracker. And look at this. I get a beautiful Evo Cannon on everything, and then because I went Mighty Miner same lane, I can now play my Mighty Miner and change lanes and get behind enemy lines, right? Normally I'd have to kill the Knight and then kill his Goblin Demolisher, but because I popped the ability, I went behind it and they're both dead. So here I go for a hog, right? He went for a drill first, I go for aggressive first. The reason why is because if I go for a hog rider first, then to defend his drill, I have to go for log, skellies, firecracker, then I would have cycled 3 cards. So I'm cycling cards whilst defending, and look at that, I'm already back to another hog, right? He does manage to do the hog trick that I showed you guys earlier in the video, so he does get the cannon trick, but he doesn't manage to counter my Evo Cracker, which gets 2 glorious shots on his tower, and this is like textbook game, right? This is basically a flawless game. And there's quite a lot you can learn from it, from going how you kind of manipulate your cycle and how you're mainly just changing out how you're defending. So look, here this time I don't go for anything, I just went for my Mighty Miner. Kind of coincidence he went for the drill in that position, but still, right? Mighty Miner can, I mean, literally all of your cards in your deck counter the Goblin drill. All 8 of them can counter it in some way. Maybe not EQ, but everything else. So yeah, that's definitely how you beat Goblin drill cycle. The next deck that I'm going to be covering is a Pekka Control deck, and he has arrows, so this is actually quite a difficult matchup to know how to navigate. It's very easy to abuse Hoggy Cube because we only have 1 tank in this deck, right? So you're kind of going to see how with only 1 tank, I'm able to defend both lanes and also manage to get damage, because he also has Fisherman and he has Pekka. So obviously I go for my my Mighty Miner to defend his Golden Knight. I just go for these Skellies, which actually I didn't know he had Mother Witch. So it kind of turned out to be annoying. And my tip number 1 is that I go for an Earthquake onto his Mother Witch. Why do I do that? If you guys didn't know, Earthquake plus Log fully counters a Mother Witch and fully counters Magic Archers. So against both of those cards, you usually Earthquake them, right? It's good damage on tower and it can fully counter them if they try supporting the card. Go for an Hog Eye Spirit because I kind of figure he's going to have maybe E-Barbs or something like that. He goes Bandit and then he also gets his King up. So this is the next thing. I mean, this is kind of a common interaction. I actually messed that up. You should play it 1 tile lower, but if you play your skeletons 1 tile lower, you'll fully counter a bandit. Here my cycle's weird, so I kind of have to sacrifice a Firecracker to kill his Fisherman, but it's a 3-for-3 trade, so it's all good. He goes Pekka in the back, and like the previous matchup, I go for my Mighty Miner in the back in the opposite lane. I can always pop it in the other lane if I need to, but it's kind of like suggesting that I'm going to go aggressive in the left lane, and if he decides to defend my Mighty Miner, or over-defend it, then it's really easy for me to defend his Pekka with just Cannon Ice Spirit. So, okay, he just decides to go on defense, so I go for a Hog, hopefully get some damage, I get an Ice Spirit, stuns everything, beautiful Ice Spirit, beautiful Skeletons, just pulling everything back, delay, delay, delay. My Mighty Miner is still alive. I get a Firecracker off on that left lane, and now I know that he's going to go for his Golden Knight ability. So first, he does it early, which is actually quite smart. I had to use an Ice Spirit to tank the ability, but then I also use the Mighty Miner to switch lanes. So that's the thing with honestly, the Mighty Miner is such a beautiful card because it can switch lanes, right? I would have got punished so hard for only having 1 tank there, but because I can switch lanes, I abused that fact. So here he has 3 cards coming at me, which is kind of difficult to defend normally, but anyway, high Skeletons just to clump everything together. Look at that Firecracker, beautiful Firecracker. He has arrows. I go for my Mighty Miner up high. I have the Log just to kill everything. And then look at this, right? Look at this cannon. And then look at these Skellies. Skeletons to pull the Pekka back, and it blocks the battle ram, right? So you can use the fact that Pekka is one chunky boy. You can use that fact to block cards behind him, right? If they can use it to push cards, we can also use it to block cards. So that was really, really nice defense. And actually, if I'm looking back on this game, that defense is probably what won me this entire matchup. So you'll notice how I'm cycling Firecrackers first, right? He doesn't have arrows in cycle, and so he can't kill this Firecracker. And it's going to be alive forever. But the second he does use his arrows, now I'm only, what, 1 card away. Now I'm 1 card away from my Firecracker again, and there's just nothing he can do. So here, my push is a bit annoying. And like I said, EQ plus Log fully counters a Mother Witch, so might as well use it, and then it also helps me kill the Bandit. I went for a Firecracker at the bridge here because he used his Pekka. Now, I didn't take into account the fact that my Mighty Miner was going to turn into a pig, so kind of a bad Firecracker. But he goes in here. I kind of had a brain flop. I really, for some reason, thought that battle ram was going to get pulled to the cannon, but obviously it doesn't. It's in the wrong lane. So kind of my bad. I popped the ability. Sadly, it pushes one of the barbs to the tower, but in general, pretty decent recovery. It's pretty even matchup, and now because I have my Evo Firecracker, I just use it at the bridge, right? It's going to get arrowed anyway. No matter what happens, it's going to get arrowed. He arrowed pretty slowly, so I actually get 2 hog hits, and then I Earthquake. I Earthquake mainly because the Royal Ghost is one of the hardest cards for me to defend, and if I can get it into log range after using Earthquake, then it's definitely worth it. Now pay attention to this. I go for my Mighty Miner, and then I go for my Skeletons right before, right? So my Mighty Miner is like acting like an Inferno Dragon heating up, and then at the same time, my Mighty Miner is DPSing it down. Here I went really aggressive with a Hog Rider because he doesn't have Pekka and Cycle. So there's nothing he can do to stop my Hog Rider from fully getting to his tower. Cycle and Earthquake, and really clean game, really instructive game for you guys. Haha, Lava Loon. Okay, this is a fun matchup. This is one of those matchups where people look at it and are like, bro, you have one air card, your Firecracker, and that's it. How is it possible that you can win it? Well, let me show you guys. So I go for my cannon low. He went, bro, this is not mid ladder. Why are you going balloon first play? He's just so lucky that my cycle was bad. I didn't have Ice Spirit, so I couldn't slow it down. He gets a hit. I mean, so ridiculous. But anyway, it is what it is. I know that I'm playing Lava Loon already at this point, and so that means I kind of need to focus on, okay, what's the strategy, right? So you really need to pay attention to their ground cards. Every Lava Loon deck has a different variation of ground cards. Usually it's like a Valkyrie and then some sort like either Barbs or Guards. Sometimes they have Evo Cage, but usually they only have 2 ground cards, some have 3. So here I go for Mighty Miner opposite lane to apply pressure, right? And I know that I need to apply pressure in both lanes. So I pop the ability. I was kind of hoping the Mighty Miner, it wouldn't, I mean, the bomb pushed the Valkyrie, but otherwise the Mighty Miner would have gone to the tower. And then I go for a Hog, and then I go for, look, Firecracker and Ice Spirit before my Mighty Miner died. Why? Because I just cycled 2 extra cards with 3 card cycle. So now my Hog is dealing tons of damage. I'm kind of just chilling. I want to see what he's going to do, right? There's no point, I don't have any air cards. So right now me cycling cards is just a waste of elixir till I see what he does. So I see that he goes for a cannon, so I just have to get back to my Firecracker. I actually have an Evo Firecracker a minute and a half in the game. Man, if I had that Firecracker shot like a second later, would have killed like almost all the pups and probably would have stopped this hit. Kind of sucks he got a hit. I was really hoping he wouldn't, but he does. It's okay, we're more or less dead equal at this point in the game, and actually a 2-tower situation isn't the end of the world for me. It's actually probably better in some ways, depending on how much damage you get and what the momentum is like. So again, we reset. Okay, what's he gonna do? He lavas, so what do? I apply pressure. I go Mighty Miner. What else do? I also go for a Hog Rider. So I go for a Hog, he goes Guard, so I log an ability just to get rid of them. So I've got damage now in both lanes. My Hog's getting damage in the right lane. I've got 3 card cycles, so I cycle that Firecracker early. And this is key. Look at this. He's used his Skeleton Dragons, bang, Evo Cannon. Evo Cannon is huge, right? Hits the barrage, hits the Skeleton Dragons. That was what I was making sure it did. So that they basically now will die to my Firecracker, my tower, and then just not a nuisance. Because otherwise it's very hard to deal with Skeleton Dragons. Kind of like Flying Machine. So here you cannot be too passive. He goes lava in the back, I need to punish him and get damage. So I go Hog, I change my Mighty Miner, it's lane, and I go for Earthquake because I know the Firecracker is going to splash onto them. I get half of his tower, beautiful damage, and now I have a Firecracker. Pay attention to this, right? I go Evo Firecracker, I know he's got Fireball, I immediately go for a Hog. Why? If I didn't, he would have just Fireballed, and then because I went for a Hog, he either has to Fireball or he has to defend my Hog Rider. And so my Evo Firecracker just gets to stay on the field forever, and now he has to Fireball. And by this point, he's in a rough spot. So, 3 card cycle. You can see he just goes for a Hail Mary in the pocket. I mean, I just get a Hog on his tower. I Ice Spirit. I'm not really worried because I know that he's basically done for. He just dropped all of his elixir at the bridge. So now all I have to do is just get an Earthquake down, and yeah, that's GG's. Really beautiful game. I enjoyed this one a lot. The next matchup that I'm going to be covering is Mortar Bait. And actually, surprisingly, this matchup can get really tricky. Trying to deal with cannon carts, trying to break through the cannoneer, trying to deal with Goblin Gang plus Ice Wizard, always defending your Hog Riders. It gets a lot, and it's actually a lot more difficult than people give it credit. Like, I think on paper it kind of seems like a free matchup for you, but in my experience, it's not. It's actually quite a difficult matchup. So at this point, I know what he's playing, right? He's got Mortar, and I kind of already figured out what he's playing. So the first thing to think about is what cards do you have to deal with his bats? Because actually, if you have a bad cycle, they can punish you pretty badly with your bats. Like you kind of see here that, look, I have to use my Mighty Miner ability, which is less than ideal. So what are the different ways you can deal with bats? Well, I went for Hog opposite lane at the same time he was being aggressive, just kind of rule of thumb. They go aggressive, I go aggressive. But what kind of counters do you have for bats, right? You have your Ice Spirit. That's the ideal one. It's just use your Ice Spirit to get a +1 trade. Next up is your Firecracker. Your Firecracker can kill bats, and it's a bit inconsistent. Sometimes it kills all of them, sometimes it misses them. It's not always perfect, but it can. Usually it does kill all of the bats. And then the kind of only other option you have is your Mighty Miner ability, which is what I had to use at the start of the game. Here I was devastated. I even wow at some point in the game, because I actually just couldn't believe the one bat survived, because like there was a Firecracker on them at point blank range. But my hog does manage to break through. Like I said, he went aggressive, I go aggressive. Why? Because I go for a hog first, I then defend his cards, and at the same time I'm defending, I'm getting back to another hog rider to outcycle him. Right? That's kind of the mentality you have to have. I know also they don't have a big spell here, right? If you had Fireball or Rocket or something, you might play this differently, but they don't have a big spell almost ever in this deck. So why bother? I use the ability. Why do I use the ability? Kind of the same reason I've explained before. It's just going to die. There's no point letting it die. By the time it even reaches the cannon cart, it's going to have lost most of its health. Oh, this was so annoying. I shouldn't have played my Firecracker there. Kind of an L Firecracker, but he does waste his arrows anyway, which I guess kind of works out. Hog gets tons of damage, which is nice. And so I just Earthquake, Log, and this is something you guys should know, is that against Evo Mortar, Earthquake, Log, +1, it will shoot one shot. So if you can tank the one shot and then Earthquake, Log, it will fully counter Evo Mortar and just make your life easy. Like, don't make your life hard. Evo Mortar is very hard to defend, otherwise they'll just keep blocking it. So I usually just try and spell it out as much as possible. Here, I'm not going aggressive, right? I'm not going to break through. I just want to try and get my elixir up so that I can get another set of sequences of pushes, right? So I cycle my Firecracker first. I should have played it on the outside. That was a mistake. He actually gets a beautiful set of arrows onto my Firecracker and tower. And I just go for a hog. Look at him. He doesn't have Mortar in cycle. I Earthquake late because there was a chance he just went Ice Wizard Cannon Cart, and I didn't want to waste an Earthquake and not hit a Goblin gang, because then I'd be in trouble. So Mighty Miner to tank, and then look at this. I realized he just went Mortar, and now he doesn't have anything for my hog. So I can just hog in the opposite lane, because he also went for his Skeleton King. So I go Prediction Log. He goes Bats because he knows I'm going to Prediction Log, but it doesn't help him. You can't stop the hog from taking the game. So GG's, nice game. The final matchup that I'm going to be covering is none other than Splashyard, and this is obviously every Hog EQ player's worst nightmare. This unbelievably broken deck with the Evo Witch and the Hut, but as I'm going to show you, it is possible to beat, especially if they don't have NATO, it is possible to beat. So first thing I'm going to talk about is how, if you didn't know, that Goblin Hut placement is pretty bad. They should play it a tile higher. Your hog can bypass it. Now look at this. Can you imagine defending this, taking 0 damage? Watch. Beautiful Firecracker, perfectly timed Log. I get some skellies down, notice the cannon placement so that it's the witch locked onto the cannon. 0 damage, right? 0 damage, great start. Now, you guys are going to see that throughout the game, I am throwing Hog Riders same lane, but my end game in this is always to be going opposite lane. Like, see, I go for a hog on the left lane, because right now, the lanes aren't decided, right? There is no left lane, right lane. You'll also notice that I outcycled him, and I paid attention to that, and I went for that hog. Here I just go for a cannon and then like an ice spirit and we defend. But you'll notice how I paid attention to his cycle and I punished the fact that I outcycled him, and you have to do that against Splashyard. Because in this matchup you have to take any damage you can get. It's very, very hard to get damage. So when you can get it, you have to take it. He went for this hut, just kind of slow rolling it. And as I was explaining before, even though you're gonna see me go for some hog same lane, and I'll explain when they happen why I'm doing that, you cannot go same lane. Your end game, like your end goal strategy, cannot be to go same lane. You will just lose. Completely, you'll get railed, right? They'll just build up such a big push that you can't defend it. So here I'm going for my Firecrackers. I'm kind of just cycling cards, I'm defending, yada, yada, yada. Get the poison off. I pop my Mighty Miner ability so that he's forced to defend the Mighty Miner on the right lane. Evo Cannon was a touch too late because it doesn't actually, the barrage doesn't hit the Evo Witch, but anyway, it's okay. You can see I'm basically now focusing on defending the graveyard, get some skellies, an Ice Spirit just to slow it down, and then a cannon just to redirect it onto the Evo Witch onto the cannon. Okay, what's my strategy? I need to go opposite lane, but at the same time, I need to make his pushes less threatening, right? If I just ignore them, then it's just going to be too much. So here I go for my Evo Cracker. You'll see that now not only am I getting damage, it's slowing him down. He goes for this graveyard, right? Nothing's tanking. And like his witch is already dead. That helps me out in defending. Offense is your defense in this matchup, right? So that's something you have to pay attention to. Is the reason I went for these plays is that I'm kind of forcing him to split up his push, and I'm getting the most value. Here again, I go for a hog. Why? Because I'm hoping this Firecracker that I go through, this is just going to get me value, right? My Mighty Miner, everything's just giving me value. If I went opposite lane, he could have just gone like skeletons or something and then just built up a massive push. Here I try protecting my firecracker, but the barb barrel unfortunately does kill it. And look, hog, I go in for a hog immediately, right? I go in for the hogs that I guarantee that I get some damage. Mighty Miner onto everything. I kill his Evo Knight, which is nice. I get Skelly's log, everything's kind of just doing its thing. Buying time, I do take some damage, I get Skelly's down. You know, I take tons of damage, but even now I'm still hopeful because what I'm thinking is I know that I have to go opposite lane, and so that's what I'm doing. Now I'm going opposite lane, right? So I go opposite lane, I'm getting this damage. My hog, I mean, it gets to the tower, it gets me a hit, but now I have to defend, right? I get 2 hits, in fact. So really nice damage, but now I have to defend. I get this nice Evo cannon down. I go for skeletons, and I go for an ice spirit, just pulling everything, stunning the witch. I'm still down 700, but you can see that at least now I'm in a much better position. I have 3 card cycle, so I go for a hog opposite lane, and I'm earthquaking. Right now I just have to be aggressive, and have to be aggressive in the opposite lane. Again, that's #1 tip. Be aggressive in the opposite lane. I get a cannon down because obviously I know that he's going to have to go in for a graveyard. He just poisons it, which means he can't kill my Evo Cracker, which is nice. And I go for a hog because I went for a hog because if he goes for a graveyard, he loses, right? He doesn't have elixir. So I managed to outcycle him and get hog 2 hits, beautiful. And then the firecracker, the fadeaway. The firecracker hits the tower. And now I know, okay, I've won if I can spell cycle. So he has to go in before I spell cycle. And if you guys don't know, if you block the bridge and there's nothing crossing the bridge, cannon plus your tower will more or less fully counter a graveyard. I spell cycle, GG. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace.